Welcome to I Hate It Here, the podcast for HR and people professionals, making the hardest job in the world just a little bit easier. I'm Hebba Youssef.
The awareness thing is a piece that plagues leaders, like just a lack of self-awareness. Like some say that they don't have the time and space to commit to reflection and self-awareness, or like a belief that it's not a good use of their time. It's just not productive to pause. And some just don't give themselves the permission to stop and reflect. It's just too risky and it feels too vulnerable.
If you've ever screamed at your ATS, you're not alone. Team Taylor gets it, built for recruiters who care about great candidate experiences and their own peace of mind. Beautiful career sites, automation that actually works, and UX that doesn't make you want to throw your laptop. This is what hiring looks like when you're ahead of the curve. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast on earth. My name is Hebba. I'm your host and resident hater, and I'm pretty pumped for today's episode because I am doing something I have never done before. It's my first time doing this style episode. So if you are listening to this and you deeply hate this or love this, I would love to hear your feedback. But let's do a quick recap on what I've been going over this season. I've been digging deeper with all my guests on all the things that shape who we are and how we show up at work, because we know work doesn't actually happen in a vacuum. It's filtered through a lens of our lives, our identities, our lived experience, our circumstances, all the messy human stuff that we don't necessarily talk about. But today we will. And today's episode, like I said, is a little different. I want to experiment with this new format, one that lets us experience that awareness of who we are in real time. So I'm modeling today's episode after a real coaching conversation. And in that conversation, it is me that is going to be coached. And I'm about to get really vulnerable about who I am and the things that impact how I show up at work. So thank you for creating this safe space for me to be on this mic and share with you all these things. My guest today is Mary Pat Jacobs, a leadership coach and organizational development consultant who helps leaders get unstuck by understanding how their instincts, patterns, and energy shape the way they lead. She's a former ad agency strategist and qualitative researcher for Fortune 50 clients, and now is a Colby certified consultant and IPEC certified professional coach. She brings that same curiosity about human behavior into her coaching practice. And today's topic is something that's been coming up for me a lot lately in my professional life. It's my impatience, my constant need for next steps and resolutions. This should surprise none of you. I used to work with a CEO who could never make a decision, and that left me with this deep anxiety around indecision. Now, in a fast-moving environment, I still kind of find myself chasing clarity and realizing that sometimes speed doesn't actually equal progress. And I want to unpack that as not just as like a theory, but like how I live my life. So I'm going to drop you into a coaching session with me and Mary Pat. And then when the coaching session is done, I'm actually going to ask Mary Pat questions. So you'll get to know her more as well and hear her take on how coaching can bring to life all the things that impact how you show up at work. So Mary Pat, welcome to the pod, and let's action our coaching session.
Perfect. Let's dig in. I'm so excited.
Here we go.
Okay. So I'll start out here by saying, like, for the purposes of this demo, we're going to assume that we have aligned on what we call the coaching agreement. This is something I typically manage with clients ahead of our first session as an introductory call, just to set expectations with things like, this isn't therapy. I'm not a therapist. I'm a coach. I'm not giving out advice here, so don't expect that. Sometimes people come to coaching, they're like, tell me what career path I should follow. I'm not going to tell you that, but I'm going to partner with you to help you get to some clarity. We also talk about things like maintaining confidentiality, which obviously for this, we're kind of throwing that out the window here.
No confidentiality. Everyone gets to know my deep thoughts.
Yeah, just for the purposes of, in the spirit of education, we are just going to kind of show you what it looks like, right? Because it can be a bit of a mystery. And so that's the type of stuff we would handle ahead of time. But we'll just go into it here and let's kick off the session. What would you like to talk about today, Hebba?
What a loaded question. I think there's so many things I could pick, but I think I really want to focus on this urge. Like, I've been having a lot of impatience in my work lately, and I really want resolutions to things. And I think that I almost I feel so impatient at times to be like, okay, what am I finishing next? Or how is this getting done? And what are the next steps? And I think potentially it could be impacting like how I work with others too.
Yeah, and you have some awareness already on how that impatience is showing up for yourself and for the people that you're working with. So, with that in mind, what would be a goal you would like to have achieved by the end of our session here?
I I think it would be helpful to like understand why this is kind of showing up for me and how I could be mindful of it and actually help me build better relationships with the people I'm working with.
Yeah, and getting that understanding is courageous, really, to dig into what actually is causing this so you can make some changes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, with that goal in mind here, getting some understanding of why you're actually showing up this way, what's really causing this, how will we know that we are successful in achieving that goal today?
Ugh, that's God. I feel like I focus so much on success for everybody that I don't actually like think about success for myself so much. And I think it would be good to just uncover around like and tactics, maybe get some support on, why I'm doing this and how to avoid doing it in the future. I think like impatience has always been such a key characteristic of mine. Like everyone throughout my life has called me impatient. I have felt impatient at every workplace I've possibly ever worked at. And so I'm really trying to understand, is this just like a key characteristic of mine? Or is this something that I'm doing because I'm uncomfortable with like something else?
Yeah, that's such a powerful question. Like, is this who I am? Or is this something I'm doing in response to something else that's around me?
Yeah.
So that's a big question. Love it. When you think about getting to that clarity of understanding where this is coming from, if we put this to a scale 1 to 10, how clear you are and where it's coming from, one is, I have no clue what's causing this impatience. And 10 is, oh, I know. I know where it's coming from. And, it was this point in my childhood or this point in this
Yeah.
career. Where would you put yourself on that 1 to 10 scale?
I'd probably say like a 7 or 8. I think I'm a very self-aware person, so I tend to examine a lot of my behaviors as like and ask myself why. I was like one of those kids who would journal to herself like, why am I like this? And I don't know if it's just because I've like always been this like introspective kind of person, but I've always really wrestled with like my identity, who I am, how I show up, and then like my place in the world. And so I would think like I think I know why I'm doing this, or I have a really good idea or sense of why I'm doing this.
Yeah. And that self awareness can be very useful. I mean, you're at a 7 or 8, which is pretty darn clear. And because we're doing this like coaching demo in a truncated amount of time, what
Yeah.
would be realistic in shifting on that scale by the end of our session? You're at a 7 or 8 right now. Where would you want to be in terms of that clarity by the end of our conversation?
I mean, like a 10. Like, I would like to be a 10. Like, because I can, when you almost like feel yourself doing something and you know you shouldn't do it, but you still do it anyways. I don't know. I
Yes.
know that's what my impatience is. Like, I feel myself really doing it. And I know, and I think to myself, like, I shouldn't do this. And I think maybe in this coaching session, like, getting that clarity around why, or just having someone to bounce ideas off of is really helpful for me when I think of coaching, because I just feel like I'm alone in some of these thoughts and I want to hear from somebody else on how I can better understand myself. And I know it's not therapy. I have a therapist who helps me talk about a lot of that stuff too. But I think
Yeah.
in the professional coaching sense, everything we do at work like impacts others. And I
Yes.
I know this is impacting people and I just want to be even more mindful and even like catch myself when I'm doing it, but also stop myself because right now I know I'm doing it and I don't stop myself.
Yeah, yeah. And so I want to talk about that. But at first, I want to confirm what makes this meaningful for you because you've mentioned it a couple of times, like working on this, getting clarity around where this impatience is coming from, and if there's some tactics you can employ to sort of counteract it is in showing up for your team. That's what makes this meaningful to work on. Am I understanding that
Yeah. I mean, my
correctly?
team, yeah, my team is everything, right? I want them to be just as successful, not for my lack of trying. Like, I don't want my shortcomings to also impact their ability to do their jobs really well. And I'm not saying that shortcoming is impacting that right now, but I do think it absolutely plays a part in the energy and the environment around the people who are working with me, like what they feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can hear that care and concern for your team and setting up like the most optimal environment for them as part of this. So kudos to you to like doing some of this work and processing through this um, for for their benefit and also for your benefit. That's great. It's fantastic. So, okay, so let's come back to what you were talking about with like you can feel the impatience, you can see it, and yet you don't stop it.
No.
What is coming up for you as you say that out loud?
Uh, it's it feels like the task list is never ending. And so I almost think the impatience I have to get something done is because I desperately need to cross one more thing off the list so that it's not just sitting out there in the ether. I think the sitting out there in the ether is what worries me the most. Like, if I don't get it done now, is it just going to sit there and never get done? Is it going to sit there and I'm not going to address it until somebody else asks me, hey, where's this thing that I need from you? I think like that, when someone has to ask me, like, where is this thing? I feel like such an overwhelming sense of disappointment in myself for not having delivered it without them asking.
Mm, where does that disappointment come from?
Ugh, that's a loaded question. I thought you said this wasn't therapy.
I mean, it gets into I mean, we talk
Yeah.
about emotions and where they
Yeah.
come from. We just don't spend a whole lot of time there, like
Yeah.
processing through it.
I think I take my commitments very seriously, probably too seriously. Like, I could stand to not be so serious, but I think I feel this overwhelming pressure because HR has this like external appearance of constantly disappointing people and constantly not being great for the employee, that I almost bring that awareness into my work, and I almost over index on I don't want anybody who experiences me as an HR person to feel disappointment. And I think that's an impossible thing to control, but I still think it's what like drives that impatience, because it's like I have to get this done so I do not disappoint this person.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, your platform is like shining a light on HR experiences. And so for you to sort of project that and carry that expectation like yourself is that's a lot. So as you think about that, like where that disappointment might be coming from and what you're striving for, what's coming up for you right now?
Mm. Just like that icky feeling when like you don't do the thing you say you're gonna do and you can like tell the person is like really disappointed in you. I'm like laughing, but like it is such an awful feeling because like you want to be a good partner to like everyone you work with and the employees that you are serving. And that partnership just feels like it's at a failure point when someone's disappointed with you. I also just like don't like disappointment. I like never liked my parents being disappointed in me. I
Yeah.
never liked, like, you know that feeling where you like come home with like a bad grade and you're like, oh, I got like a C minus or a D plus, and your parents are like, what? Why? I think like that high achieving like whole area of like where I grew up feeling like that almost like transferred just into the workplace. But instead of a bad grade on a test, I'm giving someone a bad experience with me. And
Yeah.
it just feels like a negative loop you don't want to be I don't want to be in.
Yeah.
So I'm almost like I don't want that to be the outcome. So instead I'm just gonna run to get it done so nobody gets there.
So you crossing things off the list and being impatient is a way for you to avoid people being disappointed in you.
Yeah, probably.
And by the way, if I ever paraphrase anything and throw it back to you, you're like, that is not at all. You are not connecting those dots correctly. You gotta let
I
me know.
more was like, why am I about to cry? Like this.
Oh, yeah, it
Like
happens.
you and I are like we're in a coaching session, right? And I don't get a lot of time I don't have like my own coach. Like even talking about this feels very real and raw as we're recording this. So it's kind of wild that someone's going to listen to this as a podcast episode and be like, what the hell is she doing? But this is a real thing I like genuinely struggle with at work. And even like most recently, like I had someone say like, oh, I'm just like disappointed in you. And I like did not reply. I didn't respond. I responded well in the moment, but now I can't stop thinking about it after the moment. And I'm like, how do I turn my brain off to understand that like disappointment is a natural thing in life? Maybe like maybe I almost add too much. I put too much value on disappointment. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, tears are just an indication that we care deeply about something, and that happens in these sessions because how often do we give ourselves the opportunity to stop and process through things and then connect the dots and say, like,
Never.
actually say things out loud?
Yeah.
And then say, whoa, God, I just said that. Ugh, what does that mean? How do I feel? Check in with myself. So everything you're experiencing right now is totally expected given what we're digging into. Okay.
Tearing up.
So it's okay. It's okay. If we were in person, I would pass you some tissues. And I, by the way, appreciate you sharing this too, because it's like, if you don't share, it's hard for us to really pinpoint the thing that you want to pinpoint here, which is where's this coming from? Where's
Yeah.
this impatience coming from? And it sounds like it's this pressure on yourself to avoid disappointment. So as you think about that, what would you say is the story you're telling yourself about the disappointment?
That maybe I'm not actually like good at this job. Or I'll take it one step further, like maybe the way that this job is structured in contemporary workplaces is not it's not feasible for someone to be successful at it maybe. And that is like the ethos of I Hate It here as well as I like write and process all the things that we're going through. Sometimes I'm like, is it, like, is it me? Am I the problem? Or is the structure in which we're operating the problem? And historically, I've worked at early stage startups where urgency is like a never ending philosophy. Everything is urgent, everything is on fire. And I've really tried to work on the last few years, like dismantling that knee jerk impatience and act of urgency as like, am I conditioned to behave as such? Is this role set up to always be this way? Or am I actually the problem? So I think like I'm filtering through those on any given day too.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are big questions to have on your mind
Yeah,
as you're
I don't want to be bad at this job. Like I like this job so much. So I'm like, I want to be good. Like craft to me, my friend and I used to love watching sports documentaries because we thought that athletes were the only people who felt as strongly about their craft as we felt about ours. And that seems like so silly. Like I'm not winning the NBA championship of like being in HR, but I do feel like I have such a love and admiration for the craft that I've built that like disappointing anyone on something I've worked so hard to cultivate and curate. Just like it feels like getting to like the seventh game in the NBA finals and it's tied up and you're at the seventh game and then you lose the seventh game. Or maybe you lose the first three and then there's you can't come back from that, right? So not to give a bunch of sports analogies, but like that's kind of how I feel sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a lot of, I mean, I've mentioned the word pressure to take on. And so, okay, so you said the thought you were having, story you're telling yourself, maybe I'm not good at this job, or maybe it's the environment.
Yeah. Or just how it's structured
Or
and
it's how
set
it's
up.
structured.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as you think about that, what's a feeling that comes up for you?
Ugh. I mean, like disappointed in myself, but like another feeling is like I would just like to preface this with I think anger is a very healthy emotion. It makes me a little angry sometimes because I feel like I have to be like I not only give myself this like external pressure of like I have to be so good at this job, but then it's almost like, why does everybody not feel this way about their job? And then I'm like, why am I so angry at everybody else for not feeling this like insane amounts of pressure to perform the same way I feel it? And so maybe that's something that comes up for me a lot is this idea that I have to be so great at this thing, and I feel like others don't rise to that same occasion sometimes. And I also then think it's like not fair for me to demand that from other people. So I'm annoyed that I'm creating my own circumstances, and then I'm questioning why I'm doing it to myself. And it's annoying and angry. It makes me angry.
Sure. Right. Well, and by the way, anger is absolutely permissible. I mean, all of our emotions are permissible because they're data. They're telling us something about what's going on around us, what we're experiencing. And you just kind of mentioned a bit of a chain reaction of the things that happen. You have this thought, and then the feeling is disappointment, and then anger, and then questioning, why isn't everybody else as passionate about this as I am? Why don't they care as much? And then I'm like, well, that's not fair. That's not fair there. So if I put that into what would be the action you typically take when you are having this thought of, maybe I'm not good at this job, or maybe it's the structure of it that's the problem. And when I think about that, I feel disappointed in myself. I feel angry at other people that they don't care as much. What do you typically do?
Spiral.
Mm.
I spiral so hard sometimes where I'm like, it always comes full circle. Like I always start it. So that's the other problem. Like I always start it, and then I like always bring myself back to like, no, I am good at this. Like I try to ask myself, and this is like a trick I taught myself a long time ago. I don't do a lot of negative self-talk. In fact, I like went to a talk on resilience in the workplace, and one of the psychologists was like, yeah, if you do a lot of negative self-talk. And I was like, I don't actually think I do that. And like I asked my two best friends, I was like, do you all do a lot of negative self-talk? And both of them were like, yeah, don't you? And I was like, I don't know. Like I realize like maybe I'm in a situation, but then I always try to bring it back to like, who's telling you this thought? Who's putting this pressure on you? And I try to ask myself that to come back around. So like when I feel that disappointment, I'm like, who's telling you this? I'm like, well, it's me. I'm telling myself this disappointment. And I'm like, do you think you are good at this job? And then I say to myself, yes, I do think you're good at this job. So I always end up bringing it back around. It's like a spiral, but I get back to, it's okay to like be disappointed in myself. It's okay to let people be disappointed in me. I am good at this job. I like to affirm to myself that I am good at the thing I do, despite sometimes feeling like I'm not.
Yeah. That's a huge skill set to have, Hebba.
It's delusional.
I just, maybe you've self-actualized, and my work is done here. Like we don't need, we're concluding this session now.
I'm
That
telling
really
you.
is, but to recognize that, because resilience, oh man, yeah, like to recognize that you have the ability to feel the normal things that can be disappointment in yourself and angry and all those things, but then be able to be mindful enough to pivot
Yeah.
and reframe it and
Yeah.
affirm yourself. That's huge. And that's actually where I wanted to kind of see if you were willing to go next.
Amazing.
Like,
Let's do it.
how open would you be to reframing that thought, that feeling, that action?
So open, but I also think like I still don't want to feel it, Mary Pat, to be honest. Like I still don't want to. Like, yes, I've gotten there. It's taken so much work. I think like I talk about this on the pod a lot, like losing my dad, losing my brother made me realize life is so short. So like if life is going to be so short, why am I going to say mean things to myself?
Mm,
If life is short, like I should be uncomfortable at times. I should be able to sit in that uncomfort. But I think like deep down, I still don't want to feel it. Like, right? No one
no.
wants to feel like you disappointed anybody.
Yeah.
So I think like I'm so open to reframing it. I think like the hard part for me is like, I don't want to feel it though. But I think you like have to.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
I get away with like not feeling it? Like what's the not feeling path? Like, can we go that way?
I don't think we can. I
I
don't think
don't.
we can. But I want to understand. So that tells me we're not ready to reframe this because there's still something that is not necessarily holding you back, but giving you pause. And what is it that makes you, let me ask it this way. How is feeling it
Yeah.
impacting you?
It just like doesn't make me feel good. Not that I like nobody, I don't know. Maybe it's unrealistic. Like I don't think we're meant to be happy 99 out of 100% of the time, right? Like we should feel sad, we should feel bad, we should feel this, we should feel that. I think like I just don't want to do it during the workday. I just feel like this job is hard enough already that like when then the disappointment creeps in, then it makes this job feel even harder. And then I don't feel like I can express this to other people. Like, I
Mm.
don't think there's any place for me as HR other than this pod and the community that I built. Like, there's no place for me to explain to others around me how it makes me feel. Like, I don't think not that any of them don't take their job as seriously. Everyone does. But it's like, how do you explain that? Like, that disappointment is something that you don't want to actively feel and you want to never feel it again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not though, because why would we want to feel the uncomfortable feelings?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I think I just need to get more comfortable with feeling it. Like I have felt so many different emotions like grief, but I do think my disappointment feeling is like really tied to like disappointing my parents, how awful that felt and how much I
Mm.
didn't want to do that. And I think when I feel that feeling again in the workplace, I just feel like a child who's like
Mm.
misbehaved and I don't know how to stop that feeling from happening. I think it's less about feeling the disappointment. It's more about associating it with like disappointing people I truly cared about or truly care about.
What would you, okay, well, I have one more question and then I
Okay.
want to be conscious of time so I
Yeah.
can bring us to a conclusion here because we've really gotten deep into this.
I know. I've almost
And
cried a few times.
I know it happens. It happens. It happens. That's just a sign that you're like taking this seriously and digging in, which is great. You've uncovered this, like it started kind of with impatience
Yeah.
and you've gotten to this theme of disappointment that
Yeah.
goes back to when you were a kid. What would you say to the childhood Hebba about the disappointment that she's feeling?
Ugh. What a loaded question. I thought you said this isn't therapy. I'm talking about that with my therapist. Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
You can say
Yeah.
pass.
No, I mean, I'll still answer it. Like, I think the thing that has probably defined maybe like me, my career, my like drive, my will is that feeling of like never being enough. So like maybe that's where it comes from. I would just be like, you're so good enough. You're great. You're the best. You're so funny. You're smart. Like all the positive things that you say that I say to myself now that I didn't do. I mean, like when you're a teenager, you do so much negative self-talk, right? Like we're obsessed with being the prom queen and the popular girl, which I was not. Everyone who listens to this podcast knows by the several references I have made about that. But I think it's like it's so interesting. I would go back and just say like those things don't end up really mattering. Like
Mm,
what matters is like how you want to show up every day
mm.
and how
And
you
how,
make others around you feel.
yeah, yeah. This is like the most perfect segue. That is so beautiful. And this is the most perfect segue into wrapping wrapping ourselves up here. So as you think about that, like how you like that's not the stuff that matters. There's other things that matter. And you think about how that relates to your original goal, which was about understanding like why understanding where this impatience is stemming from.
Yeah.
So because you don't like that feeling and you don't like the disappointment that comes with that. So how close did we get to, let me kind of ask that again, because I just said a bunch of word salad. Okay. How close did we get to reaching that goal of understanding where this impatience is coming from?
I mean, like really close. I feel like I just almost cried 6 times. now, now I have to go journal about 5 things a month later. Like, not to make things a joke. I use humor as a defense mechanism. I understand. Everyone listening, you don't need to tell me I know. I think we got really close because I don't think I've actually ever covered this piece with a professional coach. I think I've spent a lot of time just assuming this is who I am and less around maybe this is a stress response to feelings I don't want to have.
Yeah.
And going deeper into those feelings. And it look like it does show up at work. I've always been like I get constant feedback about being impatient. I get constant feedback about you're so great in a startup environment because you want to move so fast and get things done. And I just really thought it was like my superpower. I kind of still think it is kind of a superpower at times, but I also think better understanding that it could also be a response to something I'm trying to avoid feeling could be really helpful in the workplace as I'm thinking about like projects and tasks and things I'm moving forward, that it's okay that I don't get it all done. That I if I build strong enough relationships with my team, with the people that I care about, they'll let me say, ooh, I dropped the ball on that. Ooh, I didn't get to that, or I deprioritized it. Like, and I kind of think I do have that relationship now with like most of my executive team, but it doesn't stop me from like not wanting to feel it still.
Yeah. Yeah. And that feeling may always be there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's how to recognize it. So that's such a powerful insight that you've identified in this session. What would be one teeny tiny action item you could take coming out of it?
Most ATS tools feel clunky, cold, and complicated. Team Tailor makes it feel effortless. Built for modern hiring teams, Team Tailor combines drag and drop workflows, branded career sites, and smart automations that save hours without sacrificing the human touch. Because every candidate interaction, yes, even those rejection emails, shape your employer brand. Team Tailor helps you make those moments count. It's why brands like Oatly, Five Guys, and Happy Socks trust Team Tailor to turn hiring into a seamless brand experience that candidates remember for all the right reasons. Hiring should be simple, fun, and effective, and Team Tailor makes it all possible. I think just remembering when I feel that like knee-jerk reaction to go do something, to just pause for a minute and ask myself why. And just even write down like, does this need to get done right now? Like, is this I write so often about telling people like urgency is a made up construct. Make sure you understand your priorities. And then I also joke that like I'm the worst at this. So potentially like one of my takeaways should be that next second I feel the urge to like fix, to solve, to jump in immediately, maybe I just like pause and ask myself like, do I need to be in this situation? Is this necessarily what my focus should be on right now? And remembering to ask myself those questions, because I think sometimes I'm on autopilot some days where I'm like, fix it, mark it, do it. And I don't want to live on autopilot. Like it feels counterintuitive to like living in the moment. It feels just like I'm just a robot doing things. And that's like not what makes this job fun or lovable for me.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you learn about yourself?
Oh God, that I really should not be recording these sessions because like I just exposed myself so hard on this one about so much of my life on the internet now that people are going to know about. I think I learned that like my impatience can be a superpower, but it also can be like a monster in the making if I'm not careful and I don't guard those boundaries better. Because chasing something out of fear of disappointment is just not how I want to live my life. I know it's a big one.
It's big. And I feel like it begs the question, how do you want to celebrate the progress you've made here? Because that's a lot of processing.
Eat some chocolate and cry. I'm gonna go. No,
Okay.
I'm gonna go journal about it because I do think like one of the most annoying parts about being self-aware is that I've probably already had this conversation with myself at least 15 times. And so it's like, how do I now go and just accept in the moment, like I'm going to feel this way. And I want to celebrate it by like spending some quiet time with myself and just like wondering, you know, what are superpowers I want to have versus ones that I have forced myself to have.
Mm,
That could be
yeah.
fun, like a design your own superhero, but it's me and all my skills.
Yes,
Something fun.
absolutely.
Definitely
That's a
some fun.
great prompt too. That's
Also, just
great.
like asking people around me if they would describe me as impatient. I think all my friends would say yes. I think
Mm,
my closest colleagues would probably say yes. And then maybe this also feels like homework and less a celebration, but asking them, you know, how they think that impacts them. Because I do like, I have one direct report and I don't like to overwhelm her. And I know she can get overstimulated super easy if I'm coming at her like 15 different things. So I think I've done a really good job of not pushing on my impatience to her because I know that that's not a working style she likes. But maybe even just having a conversation with her around like, if that was my style, how that would make her feel. Cause I think the more mindful I get on how it impacts others around me, like potentially the more mindful I'll be about showing up better.
mm,
Well, that was
yeah.
like really selfless of me too, by the way.
Yeah.
I really
Well,
said,
that's
how do I
actually
give back this gift to everybody else?
well, it's a full circle moment because that's kind of where you started was like, I want to be, I don't like this impatience and how I'm showing up. Like, I can
Yeah.
feel it, see it happening, and yet I can't stop it. And I know that's not helping my team.
Yeah.
So, full
And
circle moment.
hell yeah. Wow, this was also honestly like one of the wildest things I've ever recorded.
You did
Second of
great.
all, that was all very real and fresh. And I really was gonna cry so many times.
Oh, s-
It's okay. I picked it. Remember, like when Mary Pat and I were talking about this episode, I was like, I really want to talk about this impatience thing. I like
uh-huh.
want to talk about it. And you guided me through that in such a also like safe way. Forgetting the fact that this is recorded and people are gonna listen to it, just talking to you was really helpful because like sometimes I just talk to myself. Like a lot of the things you say I might say to myself, but it's helpful to have somebody else say it to you because I don't need to be, I can't be the person talking to myself and be the expert. Like you need somebody else to talk through something with. Cause I think that that was just helpful to have to answer those questions out loud.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Well, you did such an excellent job. Like, I can tell you're introspective and self aware just by the nature of you even like you ask these questions of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't the first time that you've done this kind of work, and so that absolutely showed. And I mean, I think it's really interesting, even when I'm getting coached, I'm like, gosh, I feel like I'm so self-aware to a fault.
Yeah.
There's still things that I discover and there's still things that pop
Yeah.
up, and it's so beneficial to have somebody else kind of walk you through that versus doing it yourself. You can, but it feels like you can get to more discovery
Yeah.
and breakthroughs when you have someone working with you. I'm
I saw,
biased, of course, because I'm a coach.
yeah, you are biased, but I do like, listen, I love coaching. I always say like one of my hopes would be that we can democratize coaching more so that everybody gets it at the organization and not just your execs who are usually who get coaching resources. Because I
Yeah.
think everybody, I mean, yes, your execs and your frontline managers are the people who potentially have the biggest impact on the day to day of the employees, and like maybe allocating resources, allocating resources there would be
Mhm.
make a real impact on your org. But I think everyone deserves the opportunity to like talk with somebody about how they show up at work and how that impacts others around them. And
Yeah.
yes, being self-aware and introspective has been like the bane of my existence since I was like 12.
Welcome to the club.
Journaling to myself. Who am I at 12 years old? Like, why was I doing that? Sometimes I read my old journals. Maybe I should uncover that for an episode of the podcast where I read you all my old journal entries where I'm struggling with like who I am as a person and who I want to be in this world. What an annoying little shit I was. But, you know, I evolved into this.
It's salacious. I'm here for that.
I evolved into, just had 17 identity crises as a 12-year-old. But anyways, I want to end our episode with asking like some questions for you around like leadership and coaching. Remember, half this episode, I bared my soul. The second half, I really want to talk to you about some stuff around how we show up, because the whole theme of this season is the things that impact how we show up. So I want to turn the mic back to you, dig deeper into your perspective, maybe put you on the spot for some of these questions, and give some advice to the listeners on not just they got to see us do a real coaching session, but what does this mean for everyone else? So I have to ask this question because like, I've thought about this so much. What patterns do you see most often shaping how leaders show up at work? Yeah. And the second half of that is like, how aware are they of them?
Oh, yeah. So ironically, the awareness thing is a piece that plagues leaders, like just a lack of self-awareness. Like some say that they don't have the time and space to commit to reflection and self-awareness, or like a belief that it's not a good use of their time. It's just not productive to pause. And some just don't give themselves the permission to stop and reflect. It's just too risky and it feels too vulnerable. And so there's obviously tons of research to support, like when you're more self-aware, you tend to have a higher emotional intelligence and EQ. And then that means you likely have more productive relationships with the people around you. And yet, even when you have that self-awareness, there's two things we still see. There's difficulty in balancing utilization and productivity, which is like, what does the business require, with flexibility, which is what people require. And that's especially tricky when we think about hybrid and remote work. Like, how does the organization define flexibility? How do you as a leader define flexibility? How does your team define it? And what kind of alignment exists in your answer to those three questions? The other one is this, and this is like universal truth of all leaders everywhere, the desire to maintain trust and a healthy relationship while also holding your team accountable. It's like that likability trap. And Kim Scott talks about this in Radical Candor. It's that ruinous empathy where maybe there's somebody who's consistently not meeting standards, but because we don't want to hurt them, we care deeply about them personally, we're not going to hold them accountable, which might be challenging them directly. And then it just languishes and it goes on and on without being addressed.
Dang. So you would say I'm an anomaly? Just kidding. I had to. I'm all jokes after that emotional well I just went through. No, I mean,
humor is healing.
Yeah, you have to. I do see a lot of leaders not make time for themselves to just reflect. They're either running from meeting to meeting, or at the end of the day, they're so tired from context shifting throughout their day that they can't actually hold the space to ask themselves, how did I show up today? And I think that's something I ask myself every day. And I used to do it like based on a grade. I used to like give myself a grade at the end of every day. And then I was like, that is negative as shit. So I stopped doing it.
Yeah, good for you to recognize that.
So now I'm just like, how did I show up today? Like best version or like not great version? And when I answer not great, I just ask myself why. And I tend to find the why is because I was running from meeting to meeting, that I didn't have any space or downtime to like breathe. And so I like to give people the tip of like schedule in your breaks throughout the day, 15, like if you're going from 5 back-to-back meetings, how your brain will not, I just wrote about context shifting, your brain will not be able to process all of that. So you got to give yourself time and space to do it. And I mean, also if you're working with, I do feel like the average leader is not self-aware.
Yeah. And I also just think, it's not an accusation of leaders. A lot of it is the environment that we're in. And it's hard to be human.
So it's literally hard. I'm like, I could be a robot. I wish I could be a robot. It'd be so easy. This question, I'm just so curious to hear your thoughts on. Like, and I have so many stories about this, but how do early career experiences, like either bad bosses, toxic environments, subtly shape our default leadership styles later on?
Mm. I can't not compare this to like what it's like to become a parent. And I don't mean to be exclusive of that because there are plenty of listeners who are not parents or caregivers, but like what was modeled to us by our parents and caregivers shapes us. We like literally covered that in the coaching demo. Like it shapes us in ways that we may not even be conscious of or even really like particularly, but we've been conditioned to think, feel, and act in a certain way. And yet we're always at choice, we of what we want to embody as parents, as leaders, because we've kind of taken stock of what works, what doesn't work. Like early in your career, if there was a bad boss, if they were more aggressive or just dismissive or absent, you probably took note of that, mental note. I don't want to be like that. Or when I interview for my next position, I'm going to ask more questions that help me understand what kind of a manager I'm going to have in this. And so we take all of that data over time. But what happens is like, even as a leader and you're learning all of this, like these things don't immediately disappear. There's no magic wand to say, okay, I've just deconditioned myself. Like, we can't just get rid of these feelings and these behaviors, but what we can do is recognize them when they come up, acknowledge it. If we have to repair, if we have to apologize for something we did or said, we do that. That's important for healthy relationships. We learn from it. And the thing we have to do next, so it's not a pattern, is try. We have to try better next time. We have to try.
Yeah. Trying is, every day I'm like, I'm just trying one more time. One more day. One more day to try.
It's not easy.
It's
Coldplay said it's not easy. Nobody said it was easy.
it's not. And I think that like I had some pretty terrible bosses early in my life, and I think they really did shape who I am today as a boss. And I think like the all of it combined, the introspective child to like self-aware adult to negative experiences to wanting to be a better partner to everyone I work with. Like I didn't just wake up one day in this like fully, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like I've ascended to this greatness of being a leader. It took a lot of time. I was a bad leader early on. I learned all my lessons, but I think like those leaders, I just like took things from them where I was like, this is good. This is bad. I want to do this. I do not want to do that. And that's how I try to show up every day. And I feel like at the time I hated those bad experiences, but now I feel so lucky I had them. Because I'm like, I know I'll never be that leader. I know I'll never be the person who screams at her team. I know I'll never be the person who like brings them to tears or gives them anxiety about losing their job every day, because I've had bad leaders who have done that, and I never want to be that for somebody else. Mm-hmm. So I think like there are times just like I'm grateful for the good. I'm also so grateful for the bad, because I think like those lessons teach you everything you need to know about who you want to be at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I liked the parenthood analogy too, because there's like this interesting stat, or Adam Grant talks about it, I think in Originals, where he says like the parenting style of the 90s was like no conflict in front of kids. So then a lot of us grew up watching families not watching conflict resolve itself, or even healthy conflict. And I always joke that like my family was always arguing over things. So like we did a lot of conflicts. I love conflict now. But when I think about people in the workplace and I see that they are not great with conflict, I'm always want to be like, what was your childhood like? Like, did your parents fight behind closed doors? I know I'm not supposed to do things like that, so I'll never do that. But like that was what I thought of when you said like, parenting styles, and we all have something to learn from like the styles we've seen in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and what's the story they're telling themselves about conflict? Like, if it's a negative connotation, where did that come from? And how can you tell yourself a different story?
Yeah, I love when people are like, I hate conflict. I'm like, really? I love it.
Yeah.
We're just exchanging ideas.
Yeah.
That's
literally
a reframe. That's what conflict is. We're just exchanging ideas. We are just, I'm going to hopefully come closer to your idea. You're going to hopefully come closer to my idea. And at the end, we can still respect each other and move forward with the path. But I don't know.
Yeah.
There are people who hate conflict, and I'm like, throw me in, put me in, coach. I'm ready.
That's great.
When you're coaching someone, how do you help them separate who they are from what work has taught them to be. And I feel like we touched on this in our session earlier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's like I don't know, like Venn diagram identity crisis here. And it's so hard. Like, it's so hard to do this. A lot of it comes down to what has been your experience with how your organization measures success, and like which attitudes, which behaviors did you see rewarded? Which ones did you see dismissed or villainized? Who ascended, who did not? Those are the things that sort of inform how we show up in that way. And then what happens is that can be in misalignment with our values. I know a lot of people like talk about core values, but like it is good to know what your values are, because when you're out of your values, it can lead to frustration, like anger, all the things you probably don't want to be experiencing anytime and in the workplace. And it just makes it unfun to go to work. So recognizing that and then knowing what to do about it, because in some cases, maybe you're in a role where you feel like how you're expected to show up is different than who you are, but you need the stability of a full-time job.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. And so just having that awareness and knowing where else, if you're in a situation like that where you have to kind of compromise your values, are there other places where you can get that fulfillment? And then hopefully start to build a plan where you can find a place that aligns.
Yeah, I do think a lot of my professional career like fell into place when I did that work to identify those core values, because it helped me understand why I found some environments so frustrating and others so rewarding. And I was like, when I cannot live my real core values, I then feel like I'm masquerading every day as like a version of myself that I don't want to be. And that makes me even angrier, because honesty is like one of my core values. So I'm like, I can't.
Like Inception or Meta, or I don't know.
Do this. Yeah, I mean, it really because like for so long when you're like in an environment, you're like, is it the environment's the problem or is it me? And like sometimes the answer is like, no, it actually is me. Like my values do not align with this environment, and that's okay. It does not mean I am the problem. It just means they do not serve me and they are not made for me. And I just tell people like, it is so okay to say this is not my forever environment, and to go find some place that will appreciate you for who you are.
Yeah.
Like taking the current job market is tough, but I think like whatever you can do to stay where you are until you find that place, that's also okay too. I've had to be there. I feel like we've all been there.
Yeah.
In your experience, what's one belief most professionals need to unlearn to grow?
I think it's jumping to conclusions when you don't have all the information. Yeah.
That is such a good one.
And I am totally stealing this from, I mean, I know I talked about parenting. I have 3 kids, so I can't not. But I also feel like all of her frameworks, Dr. Becky Kennedy, she's a clinical psychologist, founded Good Inside, wrote Good Inside. So many of her principles, if not all of them, are not just for parents. They're like literally anybody in any kind of relationship. They're just for people. And one of her frameworks around this is giving the most generous interpretation, or she says like the MGI, which is like, it's sort of like giving people the benefit of the doubt. So instead of your least generous interpretation and like judgment and accusation, then you start telling yourself all of these stories about what's happening. What's the most generous interpretation of why that person might be showing up in that way, or why they made that decision, or why they're saying, you know, I have to, you know, leave at 4:00 on Friday. I have to shut down at 4:00 on Friday. And, you know, you're like, well, gosh, are you just not committed to the work and just not showing up and you're not loyal? Or is there another reason that you're setting that boundary? And how can I get curious about that? So I think we could all be doing some more generous interpretations.
I love that. I'm gonna share that with so many people, because everybody, I love it. Like the most common thing I see of this is like, well, they're just not a top performer, and I'm always like, how did you get to that conclusion?
Yeah. Yeah. And what's your definition of top performer?
Yeah, exactly. So like I like that generous interpretation, because I do feel like people jump to conclusions so fast. Oh, they just don't want to work hard. Oh, but they're just like not a good fit here. Oh, but they just like don't vibe. I'm like, none of that is at all anything. Like, it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. Okay. One last question, and then we will wrap up because I have held you hostage for so long in this episode. I made you play coach, and I asked you all these questions, and I'm like, indulge me.
I'm having fun.
Good. I'm glad. That's the whole point of this podcast. I really want to know, when you think about your own career journey, what's one thing that shaped how you show up at work today? Turning the tables.
Yeah, I know. And I'm so much better at asking questions and answering them. I think for me, where I am right now, because work today for me is I have my own business. And so I'm working for myself. I'm holding myself accountable. I have first time in my life, I'm not working for someone else or for a corporation. And so we talked about conflict, and this was like me not making it about myself, but now I'm going to make it about myself.
Yes.
I am totally conflict avoidant. And I think of conflict in a negative way. And so that has changed significantly over the last few months as I've started this business of coaching and consulting, because I can't avoid it. Like I used to avoid discourse and conflict. And now I'm realizing like I am I have far more conviction than I ever have. I'm asking for what I want clearly and confidently. I'm setting clear boundaries. I am knowing my value and my values. And I have to tell you, Hebba, I really like this girl that I am now, and it's wonderful. But that has been just a major shift that I've had to make. Like I've kind of been forced to make in running a business. Like if I want this to be successful, I need to be willing to dig in and have that courage and conviction.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that. Now,
Sure.
I want to be like, and now I coach you in the next 30 minutes of this episode. No, I'm kidding. No, it would be so unhinged. I should not be allowed to do that. I mean, I could, but we're not doing that. That is so interesting. Like, I think of careers. I've been like really playing with this recently. It's just like, what era am I in? What like phase am I in? What act am I in of my life? If I'm thinking of my life like a movie, like maybe I'm just in this like act. And it's been really interesting because it's like made me think like I can be so many different things. And I think like that delusion is so freeing. Like all of my friends are like, you're so delusional. I'm like, it's so fun because I can be anything. And when you stop telling yourself that you can't be these things or you dislike these things and you can't do them, I do feel like you're holding yourself back from potentially achieving your full potential.
Yeah.
And it's like we should, I don't know. I just view our lives as like, and us as like limitless. We can expand to be so much more if we want to be.
I love that. My word this year was unlimited because of Wicked. But
love
like,
that. I'm
unlimited.
gonna have to pick a word of the year next year. Now you've inspired me.
Yeah.
I don't know what my word this year was. Probably fuck, because I say it every 5 minutes. I had a motto last year. My motto last year was more hangouts, less hang-ups. Because I was trying to like really like let things go and be like, I'm trying to be easy breezy, which is new for me because I'm not easy breezy.
Okay. Well, maybe we could dig into that another time.
On the next season. Every season you come on and you basically coach me on every season. So it's just 6 seasons in a row of me crying through all my personal life dilemmas with Mary Pat. So fun for me. Okay, Mary Pat, for people who want to get in touch with you, find you, be coached by you, learn more about everything you do, what's the best way to find you?
I'm on LinkedIn with all y'all. Yes, we're all on LinkedIn. You can go to my website, marypatjacobs.com, and I'm sometimes on Instagram depending on the day and my relationship with it.
The vibes, yeah. Instagram is so wild. Mine right now is just like pictures of me, and I'm like, can I go back to posting pictures of food? But like nobody does that anymore.
No, it's changed. So
I'm like, great, it's just pictures of me everywhere. I'm so awkward at all of them too. Anyways, I am, first of all, so thankful to you for spending time with me today, coaching me, but also agreeing to do this format, which is the first time I've ever done this format. The first time I feel like I've shared, maybe not the first time I've shared some of those things, but that was a very real thing I am struggling with in my professional work. And it was so helpful to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah. And thank you for this opportunity.
That's the power of coaching, people. We did it. Yeah. 1 great hour. Thank you,
Hebba.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in. Keep up with all the latest HR resources by subscribing on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen. And if you love I Hate It here, tell an HR friend. I'll see you next time.